World leaders are tightening the noose around Donald Trump, and he's walking right into their trap. You heard that right. More troops, more power, and a highly strategic move to trap him. But here's the kicker. It's happening in a place you'd never expect. Greenland, that's right. German soldiers, French, Swedish, and Norwegian forces are all on the ground there right now, preparing for a conflict that could change everything. What's the real goal here? Are they really preparing for war with the U.S.? Or is this part of something much bigger, something that could leave Trump scrambling for control? I'll tell you why this isn't just military posturing. It's a trap that's already been set, and it's one Trump might not be able to avoid. Stay tuned, because you won't believe who's already pulling the strings behind this game of international chess. It's not just a coincidence. This isn't some isolated military exercise. This is a warning shot, a clear sign that world leaders have decided enough is enough, and they're drawing a line in the sand. And it's happening in Greenland, of all places, a territory that's been under the radar for years, until now. What's their game? Why this sudden focus on Greenland? Well, here's the cold truth. These nations aren't just preparing for conflict. They're anticipating Trump's next move. And it's no coincidence that all of this is happening as the United States remains deeply divided over Trump's leadership. So ask yourself, is this just a military drill, or is it something much more strategic? When they say they're preparing for a possible invasion, who are they really preparing for? This is bigger than just one country's aggression. It's the groundwork for a global shift that could leave Trump cornered. And the question is, how long can he keep dancing around the pressures building from all sides? Let's get one thing straight. This isn't just a political or military maneuver. It's a statement, a warning from world leaders, and the stakes are rising fast. The fact that troops from Germany, France, Norway, Sweden, and the UK are all participating in these exercises in Greenland should make one thing clear. Europe is ready for conflict if it comes to that. But here's where it gets interesting. These nations aren't just preparing for a potential invasion. They're preparing for Trump's next move, as he's made it crystal clear. Greenland is crucial for U.S. national security. He's gone so far as to push for its acquisition, even threatening tariffs on countries that don't back him. Notice what's missing here. The global outrage over these moves isn't about the U.S. securing Greenland. It's about Trump overstepping the boundaries, stirring up a storm he might not be able to control. Trump's rhetoric, bold, his actions, even bolder. But these countries are playing the long game, and they're already several steps ahead. The tension is only escalating from here. What started as a few military drills in Greenland is now spiraling into something much larger. These exercises, they're not just about military readiness. They're about sending a message that Europe isn't afraid to stand up to Trump. And as we all know, once the world starts calling your bluff, it gets a lot harder to maintain control. Think about the bigger picture for a moment. This isn't the first time global powers have pushed back against U.S. aggression. Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Cold War? Those moments shaped global relations for decades, and now it feels like we're on the verge of another shift. This time, though, the tables are turning in unexpected ways. Trump's move for Greenland isn't just about land. It's a move in a game of global influence, one where Europe is slowly but surely pulling ahead. The reality is setting in. The U.S. might be on the verge of losing more than just territory. It's losing its grip on the world stage. And if this keeps up, the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for Trump, but for the future of American power. If you thought things couldn't get worse, think again. Just when you thought Trump's plan for Greenland couldn't get more outrageous, it does. Enter Prime Minister Carney of Canada, meeting with China to solidify a $1 trillion trade pact. Not only does this signal a massive shift in global economics, but it also shows how quickly the U.S. is losing allies. Carney's strategy? Brilliant. He's leveraging Canada's resources, positioning his country to play both sides, and while Trump's eye is locked on Greenland, he's missing the larger strategic chessboard. Carney isn't just securing economic ties with China, he's securing his nation's place in a new global order that leaves Trump and the U.S. on the sidelines. But here's the game changer. When Carney speaks about Greenland, he's not just talking about defense. He's framing it as a NATO issue, a geopolitical chess piece. And Trump, who should be focused on stabilizing global relationships, is fixated on a piece of ice and rock. Notice what's missing. Trump isn't just losing allies, he's losing ground in the very battle he started. Now things are spinning out of control. It's not just one problem, it's a cascade of crises piling up, and it's happening at lightning speed. First, we have Carney making moves with China, then European nations solidifying their positions against Trump's ambitions. But wait, it gets worse. Trump's chief propagandist, Caroline Leavitt, confirms that the U.S. is still pushing for the acquisition of Greenland. And just when you think things couldn't get messier, Trump threatens to slap tariffs on countries that don't support his plan. Let that sink in. This is no longer just a diplomatic conflict. It's economic warfare. But it doesn't stop there. In the Middle East, new alliances are forming. Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and potentially Turkey and Egypt are teaming up against U.S. influence. These countries aren't just resisting Trump, they're actively working to weaken America's position, while Trump's focus remains locked on Greenland, a move that feels more desperate by the day. What happens if this continues? The answer isn't just political, it's about America's place in a world that's rapidly shifting under its feet. Now let's bring this back to the people. You, the everyday citizens who are watching all this unfold. While the world leaders play their strategic games, it's ordinary people who feel the weight of these decisions. The international chaos Trump is fueling isn't just about military posturing, it's about the consequences that ripple down to your life, your security, your economy. Imagine this. You're trying to make ends meet, but suddenly the price of goods skyrockets due to tariffs, tensions build, and global instability starts affecting your job, your savings, your future. What happens when you're caught in the middle of a geopolitical storm you didn't ask for? This is the reality that millions of people are facing as Trump's decisions escalate international pressure. Now, what about those who are already feeling the heat? From rising costs to a fractured global system, it's clear that if this continues, the everyday citizen will bear the brunt. If this feels familiar, say so in the comments. The stakes are no longer about just Trump. It's about all of us. This isn't just about Trump. This isn't just about Greenland. It's about the systems that enable this madness to unfold in the first place. The reason this is happening is because power is shifting, and power, when it starts to slip away, gets ugly. The way world leaders are handling this isn't just about being right or wrong. It's about leverage. Who controls the narrative? Who controls the economy? Who has the upper hand when the dust settles? Look at how this all plays out. Trump is pushing for military action, tariffs, and global chaos because he believes it secures America's future. But what if that's not the only way? What if the true mechanism of power isn't military might or economic pressure, but the ability to influence, the ability to manipulate? Europe's moves in Greenland, Carney's deal with China, these aren't just political maneuvers. They're calculated moves to position themselves as global players while the U.S. is distracted by one small island. The truth is unsettling. The system is working exactly as designed, but it's not working for America. It's working for those who know how to play the game without getting caught in the chaos. So what comes next? Two paths are emerging, and they're both full of uncertainty. On one hand, the U.S. could double down. Trump could push forward with this Greenland acquisition, threatening tariffs, alienating allies, and driving the country deeper into isolation. It's a high-stakes gamble, one that could fracture America's relationships with Europe, China, and beyond. On the other hand, we could see a shift. Global powers are aligning themselves against Trump's aggressive tactics, and if these alliances continue to grow, the U.S. could find itself facing a world that no longer plays by its rules. The question is, how long can the U.S. maintain its position on top, especially when it's distracted by a piece of land that, in the grand scheme of things, might not matter nearly as much as what's happening elsewhere? We're at a crossroads. The decisions made in the next few months will determine whether the U.S. remains a dominant power or whether it becomes just another player in a world where it's no longer calling the shots. This all comes down to one brutal truth. America is at a tipping point. Greenland, the tariffs, the shifting alliances, they're all just symptoms of a much larger issue. A world that was once shaped by American power is now being reshaped by a new set of players, and the U.S. is struggling to keep up. Trump's fixation on Greenland might seem like a small issue, but it's not. It's the perfect metaphor for a broader failure. A leader too focused on one thing while the world moves on without him. This story, it's far from over. What happens next will determine whether the U.S. remains a global superpower or fades into the background of history. So what's the takeaway here? The next chapter in this global chess match is already being written, and if you want to stay ahead of the game, make sure you're subscribed. The stakes couldn't be higher, and this story is only going to get more intense. Follow for continued analysis.